journalist. She's an author. And Jean is, well, very much my kind of journalist. She's not afraid to go where few fear to tread. And let's just see if we can bring her up on the screen. And I'm sure we will any second. Right, we want us to unmute and ask to start video. And Jean got in touch with me because she was very interested to talk with us about, here she is. Good morning, Jean.
I'm sorry about that.
Oh, don't worry. This is Sean Ward, my co-host. This is Jean.
Hi, Sean.
Hello.
Hi.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, I was just
Thank
giving
you for having me.
Oh, it's our pleasure. I was just giving everybody a bit of background about you, being an award-winning journalist and an author, and you being prepared to go into areas that few journalists fear to tread. And one of them is satanist ritual abuse. And I said to Jean, why do you call it satanist as opposed to satanic ritual abuse? And actually, I really liked your answer because you said that it's really important to kind of take it down to this being about humans doing this, the individuals doing it, rather than it being some kind of theoretical thing. And I think that's really the important thing, Jean. There are a number of cases happening at the moment in the UK regarding Satanist ritual abuse, and yet mainstream media still continues to deny it happens. What do you think about that?
Well, you know, this has been going on for years and years and years. I mean, when I grew up, it was staple fare for the news of the world. You know, these things going on in local woods and so on. There have been, there's been lots and lots of cases. There's one going through the courts in Glasgow at the moment, and very little publicity about it. Maybe a paragraph in the local paper. Seems to have disappeared from view for the moment, although it was supposed to be coming back to the courts in October. So it's incredibly difficult in the current climate to bring these cases through, but there have been plenty of them, you know, so why people deny its existence is just beyond me.
Yeah, there's the case that you referred to then. It's 11 people accused of taking part in a child sex ring involving witchcraft, attempted murder, and serious sexual violence towards young children.
Yes.
That's happening up in Scotland at the minute, yeah.
Yes, that's right. And there's been nothing in the papers about it. I have no sense of what's going on behind there, except that it seems to have been prolonged and, you know, there's a group involved, as has been the case with all the high-profile cases.
Why do you think this happens? Why is there this discrediting of it, that people, that media and officials want to take it away from this idea that there's a satanic element to it?
Well, I think one of the things is that the Orkney parents in particular, you'll know about the case in Orkney in 1991, when a number of children from a number of families were taken into care. The parents, at 7 o'clock that very morning, one of the parents got onto his brother, who was a journalist, and that person just mobilized the whole media campaign for those parents in Orkney. It became so loud, so vociferous, that it became incredibly difficult for anybody to say, well, actually, excuse me, I think this might have happened. And you know, in the end, of course, there's a lot of financial things that go on to in newspapers. It's actually very much cheaper to say, oh, poor victimized parents, than to say, I might actually face a court case for suggesting they've done this.
Do you think there are other elements to this, though, Jean? Do you think, for example, just as one example, that there may be some sort of protection from organizations like Freemasonry as one example?
You know, I have heard this over and over again. I've been involved in this field for many, many years. And personally, I think if there's one thing the pandemic has taught us, it's that the things that happen at the top of our society are hidden to us, and they are very much imposed from the top down. So it wouldn't surprise me one bit to know that people at the very top of society have been involved in this and have shut it down. And of course, that has gone right to the very top of the state. Well, suggestions have. I mean, we can all say it now because Edward Heath is dead, but he was investigated. Repeated people came forward to talk about him. Still no conclusion to that.
Yeah.
And you just have to ask why.
Yeah, even as you were saying about, you know, it happening at the top, I did some more research yesterday as well. And obviously we know it's prevalent within like the industry that I came from, which is kind of like Hollywood and music. But a lot of people don't realize that Mariah Carey has come out in 2020, or Mariah Carey's sister came out in 2020, claims that she saw babies stabbed in satanic rituals as she sues her mum for abusing kids. So that's attached to Mariah Carey. And then also Beyonce's drummer, which I don't think many people realize, Beyonce's drummer has accused her of extreme witchcraft and has tried to have a restraining order put against Beyonce because she fears for her life. But she claims that Beyonce was involved in dark magic and magic spells of sexual molestation. So it is at the top of this game, and people don't realize that they are worshipping probably not the best. Obviously, these are just allegations. I'm not saying
these are allegations, but you can see in their symbolisms, the symbolisms that are used in pop music. We see it all the time, and there is a glorification of satanic imagery. Would you agree with that?
And most people aren't going to know that they're two famous pop stars, Mariah Carey and Beyonce, are that close.
Yeah.
I certainly didn't know, and I'm devastated about Beyonce.
It is only an allegation, of course, and it could be a
allegation.
disgruntled ex-employee. You never know.
Yes.
But
Well,
Beyonce has given many people cause for concern over a period of years with the imagery she uses, the content.
Baphomet.
Yeah, exactly. She loves the Baphomet, doesn't she? Absolutely loves it. So, Jean, why did you get involved in this area, given it's so difficult as a journalist to get anything published on it?
Well, do you know, it was the most unexpected thing. It was a magazine that was attached to the Mail on Sunday. It was an investigative magazine called Night and Day. And they said, there was a case going on in Ayrshire. They asked me, would I go and investigate? Now, the Mail, the Daily Mail, had won an award prior to that for exposing the Rochdale case as being hysterical social workers. As far as I'm concerned, I have never met a hysterical social worker. They're all overwhelmed with the work that they have to do. So hysteria is not on the agenda. But I was a bit concerned, and I said to them, well, you know, I think something might have happened there. I don't know. Anyway, I went off to, they said, oh, we're independent from paper, it's all right. Well, 2 years later, that article had not been published, and I took it to a Guardian Weekend magazine, and it eventually got nominated for a press award. Didn't win, but anyway, it's nice to be nominated. But you know, the point about it was that you know, that at the very top level of this paper, there was a reluctance to publish it, you know. And
I've seen it as a freelancer. There was loads of stuff. When I was making Paedophiles in Parliament, my documentary, and I was coming against so much incredible information, I was taking it to editors that I've known for years, and they didn't want to touch it. And of course, we have people within mainstream media like David Aranovich, like Rosie Waterhouse, who have absolutely discredited any mention of SRA, right?
Yeah, and they kind of ridicule it as if to say, oh, this is just the product of fevered imaginations. Now, these cults have been going on for centuries, you know. So why are we suddenly denying reality now? There's a great willingness to deny reality in our society, I think, and to try and fit things into comfortable narratives. And
Right.
it's very comfortable to say, oh, all parents are great to their children, and
Ooh.
you know, and
Yeah.
you
Bit
know,
of a
these
dream,
poor
really.
parents, yeah, these poor parents, you know, they came into Orkney and now they've been, you know, they've been absolutely demonized. Well, I'm sorry, I think something happened in Orkney. I believe that what the children said was correct. Children tell no more lies than anybody else. That's something. I mean, we've swung in my lifetime. We swung a bit that at first people would say, "Oh, children don't lie about this stuff." Well, yes, children actually can lie. But some of the stuff that was said when the children were taken into care was so extraordinary and so out there. You know, the children couldn't all have been making up in all their separate, you know, places. Foster homes. They were placed in foster homes all over Scotland.
Right.
And they came up with these extraordinary sexualized sort of scenarios. Some of them even acted them out.
Yeah. This is not something that their fevered imagination can think up. This is learned behavior.
Yeah.
Right. Children don't know how
Seems
to
that
act
way, yeah.
out sex acts unless they're shown how to do that. Right. That just doesn't.
I would have thought so. Well,
Yeah.
you never say never, do you?
Well,
You
you can
know.
never say never. You're absolutely
Yeah.
right. So you've written a book about this. Your third, Foul Deeds Will Rise. How many rejections did you get for that, Jean?
That was over 50, I think, that one.
Wow.
50 rejections.
Yeah, and
Wow.
I had two publishers took it on now. You know, I think it's 1 in 1,000 submissions ever gets published. So
Wow.
to have two publishers, well, one publisher, I had understood she was behind it,
Is that
but
Wild Wolf?
Yes.
no,
The other one.
Oh,
Wild Wolf published it, but the
Right.
first publisher was the publisher of a previous book of mine, and she's great. I mean, I really admire her, and I'm still friends with her, but it was a very devastating process to, you know, have given her this book and then to discover that she was considering not publishing it, because her editor had said he was going to resign if she published it. Now that's
wow.
such an extreme reaction, you
That
know.
is. That really is.
She's a small publisher. The next one was Big Arts organization, New Writing North, and they have a separate publisher. And she gave me a publication date. I was saying to you, Sonia, I should have known that there was something to worry about there, because when I looked at it afterwards, after she dumped the book, it was the 1st of July, which that year was a Sunday. So nobody brings their books out on a Sunday.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, just to go back to just a point. Sorry, Sean, you're just going to say something. Go for
I
it.
just feel like, you know, because the pair of you are journalists, obviously, I think the media in the UK is one of the worst in the world, and a weapon at this point. But what can be done you know, I've had articles written about me that aren't true, and they've said they've had to do it in the health and in the safety of the public to release it, and I can't understand why all this and the most important topic of adults actually stopping the narrative of this happening.
Hidden hand. Hidden hand. As
Yeah,
Jean,
the architect.
exactly. As Jean just talked about Edward Heath, and now the stories we heard about Edward Heath, Mike Veal, who was the police chief at Wiltshire Police, brilliant man, very brave man. He said that if Edward Heath was alive now, he would definitely have been called in for questioning, because there are at least 7 credible cases. Edward Heath was said to have taken children from Haute de la Garenne on Jersey on his boat did whatever he did to them, had their throats cut and thrown them over the side of the boat. That was what was said about Edward Heath when he was alive, and he didn't sue people for saying that, right? So, you know, I think it is the hidden hand. I think that it is about power. I think there are people in places of power who are involved, and I think that they cover each other's back. That's what I think's going on. What about you? What about you, Jean?
I would not be surprised. And the problem with that is that you look like some kind of nutty conspiracy theorist if you say that.
Yeah, I don't care anymore. I'm well past that stage.
But that's probably by design, so that then you get taken less seriously.
Yeah, discredit what you have to
Yes.
say.
Yeah.
I think it's exactly that, Sean, you know, that if they can say you are some kind of nut job who's come along with these crazy theories, they can just sideline you. So yeah, I think that's it's a very powerful weapon in their armory.
So, Jean, just finally, if anybody's listening to this and they're a bit of that mind of no, it doesn't exist, what would you like to leave them with in order to kind of open up their worldview so they may be prepared to consider further?
Well, I suppose the thing that got me into the whole, you know, I have pursued this, done many articles which didn't see the light of day. I mean, one was for the Observer magazine many years ago, and in one section it was talking about a woman who'd been kept in a cage, and the then editor of this magazine said, oh, she said, I just don't believe that. Now, that was before all the people like J.C. DeGard and Elizabeth Fritzl and all of that. So this stuff happens. But I suppose the thing that has really touched me is the way that it invades people's brains. Children are told Satan is everywhere and he's watching you. So the end result is some very damaged adults,
Right.
you know, who are never at ease in the world, who have, you know, damaged and difficult lives because they are struggling to free themselves from these awful kind of events that have happened to them in the past.
And denial of it just compounds their pain. So people, please, you know, if there's anybody out there who doesn't believe it, research, look into this, question why perhaps there is a denial of this going on. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Jean. It's been a pleasure talking to you. You can find more of Jean's work at jeanrafferty.com, www.jeanrafferty.com. Highly recommended. Jean is one of those incredible journalists who has tackled everything from dealing with Rwanda to, well, goodness knows what, a dog psychologist I can see here. Thank you so much for your work, Jean. Take good care of yourself. Have a good week.
Take care.
Thank you to both. Thank you.
Pleasure. Bye. It's very brave of her to cover this topic, Sean, because it's, you know, it's